Well, welcome everyone. I'm very excited to have everyone here again. I'm Jennifer D. Klein. I'm the facilitator or host of these conversations, which we try to do once a month if we can, with learners from different parts of the world. This time around, we have an extraordinary team. They've got their slides ready to go, and they're very excited to share about the work that they've been doing through the organization Global Nomads. I'm not going to preface too much about what they have to say because they're the ones who should share their experience. But I will remind our participants, we will make sure that there is plenty of time for questions for our learners. We want to make sure that we're prioritizing student voice above all else. So we'll really try to keep most of the second half of this session focused on questions for the learners. But obviously, as educators, I'm sure many of you will have questions for Katie as well. Please feel free to ask those questions too. And if it's helpful, you can ask those questions also in the chat. I've already asked Katie to make sure she keeps a little bit of an eye on the chat just to be aware when questions come in that are a little more for her, okay? And Katie, is your introduction part of the slides as well, or do you want to just introduce yourself quickly?
It is.
It is part of it. Excellent. Well, then with no further ado, let's go ahead and get ourselves started. I will mute myself and you all are in charge.
Can everyone see my slides? Great. Okay. Take it away, Lily.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session. And we are a team of youth alumni from Content Creation Lab, which is a global internship where students and young people like us collaboratively design online courses on issues we care most about. And today we want to share a little bit about what student protagonism looks like beyond the classroom. Global Nomads and Content Creation Lab believe in youth-centered learning, and it starts with youth-driven course design, way before the curriculum reaches teachers or students. So before we dive into it, we're going to introduce ourselves with our name, pronouns, age, where we are right now, the courses that we've worked on, and what motivated us to get involved with CCL, Content Creation Lab. So I'll go first, I guess. My name is Lily, pronoun she, her. I'm 17 years old. I'm currently in central New Jersey in the US. The most recent course that I've worked on is called Neurodivergent Belonging, Leadership and Advocacy, which will be out later this year, I'm pretty sure. And for what motivated me to get involved with CCL, I really loved their mission on, that youth design and youth focus. I am a firm believer that if youth are at the forefront of education, the educational environment will be a lot more engaging, and I think we'll see a lot more of a positive trend in life skills, social skills, and skills that can be used beyond the classroom.
Do you want to do it popcorn style like we often do in our meetings?
Yeah, sure. Aiden, I'll pass it to you.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this session. My name is Aiden Yildiz. I am 17 years old and currently living in Queens, New York. The course that I'm currently with right now, I'm with Lily, doing the Neurodivergent Belonging and Advocacy, which is going to be published sometime later this year. And what really got me motivated into CCL is to, like what I agree with what Lily mentioned also, not only like just to hear from like multiple different perspectives from across the world, but to hear from perspectives that would um, change the future of how we teach and how we educate like student teaching. So, and I'm gonna pass it on to Zaria.
Azaria, we can't hear
You're
you. You
muted,
need
I
to
think.
turn on
Oh,
your, yeah,
I'm
there you go.
sorry.
It's okay.
Oh, sorry
Turn
about
over.
that. Sorry,
Turn over, please.
Hi, guys. My name is Azaria. My pronouns are she, her. I'm 22 years old and I'm from Virginia in the United States. So far, I've worked on two courses, those being the architecture course and the overcoming bias in AI courses. And I joined in 2021, where I worked as a team leader on the architecture course. And I was very excited to hear that this program is for youth by youth, because that's something you don't really see a lot, having youth leading the education and also teaching each other how to make the world a better place. And it just shows that our generation really is the future, because we're looking at ways to not only find ways to better the world, but to teach others how to do so as well. And I'm going to pass that on to Natalia.
Hi, my name is Natalia Grandio. I'm 15 years old. My pronouns are she, her, and I am from Mexico City. I worked on the climate change and environmental justice program where students would be able to explore themes on climate change, specifically focused on California's Central Valley, which is what we focused this curriculum on. I joined CCL because I wanted to be able to raise my voice and contribute to something that I thought was impactful for my generation. And I was the youngest on my team, and I never actually felt like I was the youngest. I mean, I feel like everyone worked collaboratively and we all made a curriculum that actually felt that we felt a connection to, even though most of us weren't even in California. So yeah. And I pass it to G.
Hi, I'm Juliana, or G, they, them pronouns. I'm 23 and I'm in New York City in the United States. I also worked on the neurodivergence and belonging course. And for me, CCL was just a great fit, especially the specific course I worked on, because I have a background in accessibility studies and accessible education and disability studies. So it was really just a perfect match. And I, as a neurodivergent disabled person myself, I'm very big on the nothing about us without us. So I felt strongly about being a part of this project.
Thanks, everyone. I won't take up much time. I'm Katie Cox. I'm 36 and I am in Brooklyn, New York. I'm the program manager for this project, so I like to brag that I have the best job in the world. I get to work with really phenomenal young course designers from all over the world. Given our time zone here tonight, we have a really US heavy group of presenters, but our course designers do come from all over the world. We've had, I believe, 36 different countries represented, and that's a signature part of our program that some of our presenters tonight will talk about. And with that, I will pass it back to them.
So to get started, who is the Global Nomads? The Global Nomads is an organization that offers young people safe digital spaces where we can express ourselves, share our stories, and connect with other youth around the world. And through these programs, we're not only like share our own opinions from these different modules, but we express how we feel in our personal narrative to others and to make others understand. So yeah.
So Global Nomads has three main programs. So we have the Content Creation Lab, which is our youth-driven course design internship, and that's what we're mainly here to talk about. And there's also Student to World, and most of the courses we created are hosted on our open access youth-designed online learning platform called Nomadverse. And these courses are distributed to classrooms and individuals worldwide through the Student to World program. And one special part of the Student to World program is the United States and Mexico exchange program. So English and Spanish language learners in each country can take the same class in the language they're learning and meet for virtual live events to exchange perspectives and practice speaking in each other's languages and learning new languages. And we are currently recruiting US classrooms. So yeah.
Okay, so what is the Content Creation Lab, or CCL? The Content Creation Lab is a virtual internship program creating original courses designed for global youth for global youth. The courses we design are about the issues that matter the most to us as young people that often don't get taught in schools, such as neurodivergency, human rights, climate change, and artificial intelligence. Our online courses are story-based, and after each module, students respond to story prompts about each course topic and post them on our global story map. They can also explore the courses other students post. In this way, every student who takes the course also co-creates it, which creates more unity between all students.
So, what do all of these courses have in common? The main thing is that they are created from and for a youth perspective. They use local stories to explore global issues. And they're designed for all learners. Our values are focused on accessibility and inclusion. We use universal design principles, which means designing courses so that everyone can participate, especially people who often get left out of traditional learning experiences. So, our main motto that we say is when you design for the margins, everyone is included.
This isn't just an experiment, CCL has global reach. Our work has made it into classrooms across the United States and internationally, helping shift how youth perspectives are included in education. And here's a picture of our program in numbers. We've had 10 virtual internship cycles since 2020, including a total of 196 designers ages 11 through 29, though our usual cohorts are aged 13 to 24. We've created 16 courses and curricula, and global youth have shared over 28,000 stories on our platform. And as an organization, we've reached over 1.12 million youth across 107 countries.
And here are some more highlights from our most recent impact report. An external evaluator found a statistically significant and positive effect on the CCL program and its participants in every outcome of interest. The numbers below each statement show the growth from before the program to after the program.
And so, as you can see, the numbers have increased to 91% of people who agreed that whenever there's a chance to get actively involved, I take it.
97% agreed I will use what I learned in CCL to contribute positively to my community.
91% agreed that they can adapt to different situations, even when under stress or pressure.
97% agree I enjoy working with others towards common goals.
And 100% agreed that they can do something about the problems of the world.
So people always ask us, how does CCL actually work? So here's a look behind the scenes. We usually have virtual weekly meetings. We are split into multinational teams of about 8 people led by alumni team leaders, and each team focuses on a different part of the project, and then we'll all come together and have team meetings as a whole with everyone, all the different teams combined, where we would share our progress and put it all together into one full curriculum. And we get training in research, backwards mapping, accessibility, and universal design, which makes it very easy for a lot of people to follow along no matter what obstacles you might have. We try to make sure everyone is included. We also have writing, training in video production, and also more. We also have lots of structured brainstorms and design prompts, and collaborate mainly in Zoom, Slack, and Google Docs. So a lot of our courses undergo peer and staff feedback and expert review. And then at the end of the program, we will receive stipends because this is a paid internship. So designers who need access to a device or internet would also receive a technology stipend. And one of our first steps is called backwards mapping. So on the screen, you can see a backwards map for an example. And this is a course that I worked on last semester called Real Youth Artificial Intelligence. So the first area in the red is called the big ideas. That's our first step, where we just kind of take the main topics that we want to focus on in our course. And then based on those topics, we'll move on to the essential questions and then use those to draft the learning outcomes, which is what we want the students to be able to do by the end of the course. And from there, we would create the learning activities and the content to achieve these outcomes. And that's our whole process of organizing how we put together our course.
So right here is an example of a brainstorm we did to design assignments for our course in order for progress of neurodivergence. And so as you can see here, split into 4 different modules, and there's like different post-it notes from multiple different perspectives of what they believe each module is about. And just, for example, just going through a quick run through of each module and just like summarizing each plot point mentioned in each module.
So once we've come to the conclusion of what we want our modules to teach and what we want learners to get, we split into working groups. There are 3 working groups. There's the writing group, the video group, and the social media group. So I was a part of the writing group, and what we do is we draft content for all of the modules. How we did this was we split up the modules into sections like subtopics, and then we each took one of the subtopics to write. After we had written a section, we kind of exchanged sections and edited. So everyone edited someone else's. We made those edits. We had our facilitators come through and also add feedback just so we could get more of an outside perspective. And then we went to the next module and we did that for all 4. And then we passed it off to the video group.
So thank you, G. And that segues really nicely into the next part of the process, which is with the storyboarding for video production. So storyboarding is the first step. And once the storyboards are ready, we start recording and editing. It's very important to note that we don't just jump in from having the script to immediately recording. There's a lot of planning and the process that goes along. So as you can see with this chart, first the script is drafted, and generally each part of the script is broken up into different chunks, especially since there are multiple different speakers that can be involved in a specific video, and you generally time how long each section will take. And then you also have to plan out the visuals. Suppose if there's going to be captioning or different images that pop up on the screen as the video is playing, planning out where those go, how they would look. You also need to plan out the speakers who are going to be presenting each section, and then any other notes that might be helpful for the presentation process.
So for all of our content, we use an accessibility checklist because we learn and apply accessibility standards to make sure our content is accessible to all learners. So really, we try to make sure that every piece of information is accessible to every sort of learner. So in our videos, we also include captions. Information in the videos can also be found in the written text, because I know me personally, it's hard for me to watch videos. So we accommodate all learners to make sure that everyone gets the chance to experience the courses. And here are some screenshots from our accessibility tool.
And obviously, each course varies. And I worked on a unit called "Why Central Valley in California is Sinking," and what we can do about it. This was not an online course. It was a 7th grade science curriculum that we created for California's public schools about climate change, environmental justice. We focus on the theme of land subside or land sinking. It's actually coming out this summer and it will be open access, but originally it was created as a 7th grade curriculum. So what you see on the screen are a bunch of characters that we created that can help students be guided through this curriculum. Each one of these characters had a specific trait, but they all related to climate change and the Central Valley in a way. We believe that by doing this, we can create education that is not just accessible, but is also more engaging for students. Because by having it as a story, then I feel like students can actually relate or can actually create a connection with the content that they are consuming.
So we just launched the Real Youth Artificial Intelligence course this month, and this course is free and it explores how AI works and what it gets wrong, how it can be biased at times, and where that bias tends to come from in the design of AI sites and tools, and what we as youth can do about it. So we kind of go into a deep dive exploring that and exploring certain situations or like how we can use AI to do the opposite of bias. And in June, we'll be hosting a live virtual discussion for youth in the United States and the Middle East and North Africa to share their perspectives and how they use it in their own lives. So please, everyone, encourage any youth or any young people you know, ages 13 to 19, to sign up.
So I guess I can go. So we were working on the Neurodivergent Belonging Leadership and Advocacy course. So really what this course digs into is the definition and meaning of neurodiversity, what it means to be neurodivergent, clarifying like some myths about neurodivergence because there's a lot of myths, and really moving into how we can make active change towards a more accessible society and workplace environment, and how we can include everyone, and just the importance of including neurodivergent people, because there are so many wonderful perspectives that everyone has, and we won't be a full society unless we include all of it.
Yeah, and just to backpack off of that, we talk in terms of like the myths or just exposing the truths about neurodiversity. We talk about how being neurodivergent is it's part of a spectrum and there's no one way to present or be neurodivergent. So the importance of bringing in those neurodivergent perspectives, but also kind of breaking the societal stigmas that surround neurodivergence by exposing students that may not necessarily have been exposed to this topic before and having them become more worldly and more empathetic individuals. And I feel like one thing that's made this course very personable and relatable is that there have been 4 personal narratives that are added to this course, where 4 individuals who are part of the cohort, I believe G is one of them, and I'm also one of them, have shared our personal stories with being neurodivergent and our experiences and what we would like to pass along from a first person perspective to our audience.
Also, just to piggyback of what G and Lily just said, like just the importance of just showing multiple different perspectives of this whole wide spectrum, wide net of like either being neurodivergent or non-neurodivergent, wanting people to know more of the course itself and more learn more of the terms being presented in each module, and that probably would educate more of a global understanding as to what neurodivergent really is and like all these different terms that would also like tie into more of their past and current experiences that they either witness like through their own personal experiences or like just what they lived through that they want to pass on to as like inspiration to the future generations. Also,
And
you can find,
oh, go ahead.
oh,
Go for it, Aiden.
also you can find more of the free youth design courses on our website. So these are all the different web pages for more of our courses you can explore through the GNG website that you can explore. That if you are interested in the neurodivergent course, you could probably take a look at more of the suggested topics as well. So.
So that was a lot of information. So just to summarize it for some key takeaways that we recommend taking with you, especially in your educational sphere, would be about youth design and student protagonism. So one of them is trust youth with real work because we can do it.
Another one would be designed with, not for, because there's nothing about us without us.
Another one would be students engage more when they recognize themselves in the curriculum.
And everyone learns in different ways. More youth agency allows all students to flourish.
Invite storytelling and personal reflection in the learning process.
And thank you all for coming. And here's where you can find out more about Global Nomads, CCL, and our courses.
Wow, that I have like 2 pages of notes at this point, so that was extraordinary. Thank you all so much. We'll make sure that we do an audible round of applause at the end, right, where we all unmute our mics so that you can hear us. But I can tell already by the chat and by the smiles and enthusiasm on the videos there, that was absolutely great. Let's go ahead and I think you can probably stop sharing. If we need to, we'll go back, Katie. If somebody asks a question where a visual would be useful. But I want to make sure everybody can see each other because we've got such a nice big group. So I'll go ahead and pose. We've got plenty of time, first of all, for questions, which is a real gift. This doesn't always happen. And I'll go ahead and pose the first. I might have missed when you all shared who these courses are designed for. I'd love to know a little bit more about who might be taking them and whether any of them are designed with educators in mind or whether any of them might be useful for educators to watch? And this is a question for any of the learners who want to respond.
I can chime in for that. So for the first part of the question, who is generally taking these courses? The beauty of it is since it's designed by global youth, it's also for global youth. So our courses, especially since they're free and online, reach a wide variety of people from all different countries, different backgrounds, age ranges. Generally, most people take our courses, the people who take our courses are from the ages of 13 to 19. However, that can vary a little bit. But overall, we can find people from all over the world that are taking these courses. And I think that's the beauty of it, because going back to what we mentioned earlier about with our courses, there's a story map. So at the end of each module, we pose a prompt to the people who are taking our courses, and they can add a story and respond to the prompt that relates to their personal experience with it. And that really kind of brings into that collectiveness, even though it's reaching such a broad audience, we can still kind of all end up relating to it in some way. In terms of the educator perspective, we definitely focus more on youth involvement and the youth perspective. However, educators are kept in mind. I think with what Natalia was saying earlier about the course that she created, it was designed for California public schools. So I think in that area, since it was more of a curricula course that would be taught in schools, the approach for designing that's slightly different from how we design the neurodivergent belonging and acceptance course. So I feel like from my experience, from what I've learned about Content Creation Lab, it's definitely course dependent.
Okay. That's a very helpful answer, Lily. Thank you. And Katie, would you mind opening your mic to say explain what you put in the chat just so that it's in the recording?
Yes, I added that. I mean, Lily covered so much of it, but our online courses are implemented both with individuals, so anyone in the world can sign up, but most of our participants are participating through classrooms. So we do implement in classrooms all over the world. My coworker Cindy Macedo is here from the Student to World team. We provide lesson plans, live support, tech support, and also pedagogical support for teachers who want to implement. And a lot of these are designed to be kind of hybrid implementation friendly. So doing some of it in the classroom, some of it outside of the classroom, really depending on the needs of the teachers and the classrooms. But I'll say for myself as an adult facilitator, I learned so much from all of these courses. So I do actually really recommend taking them, even if you don't consider yourself a student. The AI one in particular was a really important crash course for me. Sandra is nodding. Yeah.
Love it, Katie. And I've actually just recently been trying to shift my language toward learners rather than students, because learners includes adults as well, right? We can all learn, right? So that's a great one. Carla, do you want to open your mic and ask your question?
Sure. No, I was just wondering, can people join these courses at any time, or are there dates when they begin? How does that work?
Whoever would like to take that question on.
I can say the courses are all asynchronous, so you can join at any time and access them at any time.
Nice.
We do have one exception is we do have live events, like with the Real Youth AI project. You can take that course at any time, but we have some live events coming up in June, which we do want to plug to our audience. If you're 13 to 19 in the United States, the Middle East, or North Africa, you can sign up for those live events. And those are an opportunity for youth who are taking the course or thinking about taking the course or who took it in the past to meet youth from all over the world, go into discussion-based breakout rooms and talk about those. And all those live events are also youth facilitated and youth designed. I will say the USMX Language Learning Exchange Program is also more synchronous. So we implement with classrooms at the same time so that a classroom learning Spanish in the United States and a classroom learning English in Mexico are going through the same version of the course, but in the language that they're learning. And then they have planned live events to practice speaking and meeting people from their sister country.
I love the way you all have sort of maybe not completely solve the challenge of time zones, but you've come up with structures and systems that allow you to do a little bit of both, right? And I think that's really beautifully put together. Adley, you have your hand raised. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Please open your mic and say hello.
Hello, everyone. It's Adel, like Apple.
Adel, I apologize.
Yeah, no problem. It's people say my name is spelled wrongly, so I tell them to talk to my mom about it.
Love it.
Okay, I have several questions. The first one is a short one. When you say North America, does your website list which countries North America? Sorry, North Africa. Sorry. Because I have a friend who is a principal in Bahrain. She's in a
That friend would
private
be very
school.
welcome to join. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, okay. Then I have two questions about the actual module and how you go about doing it. So I apologize if I missed that because me too, I was writing my notes and I couldn't write fast enough. Lesson plan. So I'm an educator. I have a B.Ed from McGill University in Montreal. So my question to you is when you provide lesson plans, first of all, how do you know to write lesson plans? Where do you do your research? And then the second question is a bit longer and tied into things, so I'll ask this one first.
I'd like to take that question on. Azaria?
Yeah, I can talk about that. So one of our main processes is the backwards map. So that's like our main lesson plan process. So our methods of research, we would all, when we break off into our individual teams, we would look for different sources online for different topics that will like go into our first step of our big ideas. So we'll look for sources that will support those big ideas of what we want to address in that curriculum. And we also within the course like use experience-based information. Since we are all international, we're all from different places, we may have different experiences and some things that Google might not necessarily be able to directly answer because it doesn't really have that experience based knowledge. So our courses, what's special about it is that we also are able to provide different perspectives for someone who lives in the United States versus someone who may live in Africa or Asia or the Middle East. It kind of brings in those perspectives and also tying that along with the information that we find online. So with that lesson plan, we start off with the big ideas and then breaking off on based on like those topics that we choose, we would come up with essential questions based on those, saying, okay, so what do we want to acknowledge within this curriculum? And then that would then evolve into the learning outcomes and our content creation portion, basically just saying like what we want the students or the learners to walk away with after finishing the course.
That's
And
great.
I want to add a bit to what Azaria was
Yeah,
saying.
please do, Natalia.
So in the case of my course, we did actually work with experts, people who, environmental scientists who actually came to give us lectures, on the specifics on what was happening on Central Valley, why it was sinking, and these kinds of things are what truly gave us insight. I mean, I feel like most of the investigations we do are almost professional. We have a lot of experts that come to help us, and also our personal experiences do help a lot. Um, but yeah, I feel like that's one of the main ways we research, and also we do have a lot of resources that help us be able to create these courses. Like I clearly remember one time we sometimes had to read or listen to lectures, and in the case I read an article once that was sent for all of us to read about indigenous perspectives and how to look at investigations in the perspective of like nature or your surroundings instead of just focusing on the human. And that's something that really stuck to me and helped me create the curriculum that we did. So yeah.
If I
This
might,
is,
oops, I'm
oh yeah,
sorry.
please, Lily. No, go ahead.
If I might also add, I think we have some amazing facilitators who join us at Content Creation Lab, such as Katie when leading for us, our Saturday meetings. And in terms of also making sure that other than just expert review, we were also given course design lesson plans ourselves, or like teaching mini lessons where we learned what it means to create accessible content. What does it mean to design for the margins? What does it look like how, what are different learning models, and what biases or biases may occur within them, and how can we avoid that when designing our courses? So we've been provided with different skills along with our journey. So it's not just research and creating the content, but we're also learning how to develop meaningful content and making sure that it is inclusive. So we become more well versed in those areas as well throughout the design process.
This is amazing. Honestly, I think you all are demonstrating more of an understanding, or maybe the better word is a deeper understanding of pedagogy and backward. I mean, we've all done those maps. I suspect there's no one on this conference call who has not at some point had to map curriculum, and the depth of understanding that you all are bringing to it is extraordinary. Katie, I want to make sure that some of what you said in the chat gets elevated also to the mic, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I
And
was
then
just
we'll get to your
joking that I
questions.
shouldn't have bothered because they covered so much of it as I was
Yeah,
typing
they
that up.
really
But
did.
yeah, we do. It's a very iterative process. So we do provide like the structures and the templates on these mini lessons and trainings in our workshops, but we also provide a lot of feedback. So feedback happens throughout the process, not just with expert review, as Natalia was talking about, which might happen in the research phase, but also happens in post-production reviewing the content itself. But we also give a lot of feedback on how we're presenting the information, on the pedagogical approach. So I have a PhD in anthropology and a university level background and training in curriculum design and inclusive online learning in particular. And Sandra, the chief of the programs and learning, who's also heavily involved in the content creation lab, is a PhD in education and brings that expertise as well. So, I mean, I will say most of the best ideas really are coming from the youth design team, but we have some of that, those theoretical frameworks and existing tools that we try to provide them with and give feedback. And I'll pass it to Cindy too, because the Student to World team that implements the courses does a lot of the accompanying lesson plans that that educators can use alongside the online courses.
Thank you, Katie. Yes, I just wanted to add that for educators, we also have lesson plans ready for them. Our lesson plans are pretty open, pretty flexible. The activities, we offer a variety of activities that they can do in the classroom in order to support the students in their journey to completion of any of the Student to World courses. Pretty flexible activities that encourage reflection and that encourage like youth-driven ideas and understanding with their peers. So we have available all of the lesson plans in our platform, and we also provide support when they are implementing any of the courses.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you, Cindy. I appreciate that. Josh, you have a question.
Yes, thank you. Actually, I have
course.
two, but I'm going to defer on the second one, in case there's time at the end. But I actually would love to come back to you, Juliana, because you responded to the question about asynchronous versus synchronous. And I wonder if there are moments where the learners actually working asynchronously, potentially on a similar topic or within a similar course, come together synchronously to talk to each other about it. Like, does that ever happen organically, or is there a structure in place that makes that possible to happen so that you can actually gain the benefits of your connection to each other?
Yeah, to my knowledge, beyond like being implemented in classrooms, that's not so much a thing. I will say that at the end of each module, there is an opportunity for people to share their stories related to the course or based on a question, like a central question of the course, and you're able to read through everyone's answers. So that's a good way to have that connection. It's not synchronous, but it is getting perspectives from all of the learners from every country and seeing what they have to say.
Yeah, I also think that Katie may have touched on this a little bit. Sometimes at the end of course design process, especially for which is coming up right now for the Real Youth Artificial Intelligence one. We have live events that we host where students come together and we'll work on the story map together. We'll go through the course together and we'll actually, have that discussion live. So I attended a session, I want to say about 2-3 weeks ago, actually, where we had our first live event for that course. And I was with I would say it was a smaller group, but I think that also made the group more discussion based because we not only completed the course together, but we also shared our stories verbally as well. So that does happen occasionally.
So just a quick comment, Lily. I can imagine if I were with you and part of Global Nomads, I would be really enthusiastic about moving in the direction of being part of your curriculum coordination, because that would give me an opportunity to have what you just described, which would be awesome, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. All right, Adel, you had another question and you've just put it in the chat, but I'd rather it was asked from your own voice, if you don't mind. Turn it on your mic again.
No, I don't mind. Yeah, so this one is really hard for me as well. But I want to know your perspective because you are the ones who are researching and you're the ones putting these things together. So, as I said, in our world where truth is questionable, what is your process to fact check your information in the modules in your courses? And when you fact check, who are you checking with? I did hear you say these are experts, but I grew up in the East, but I work and live in the West, meaning of the hemisphere kind of thing. And I find that, especially at graduate school, when I was more cognizant of reference material, it was very clear that our reference material mainly came from North America or Europe or English-speaking nations. But there are lots of experts all over the world whose first language is not English, but because of the area of research, they did do research in English. So then my question is, how diverse is your reference sheet? And then, yeah, so, and what's the process that you go through to get a thumbs up? This is ready to go. This is ready to go, like live. So, yeah, I have other questions, but I'm not gonna
That's a great starting place. Maybe our learners could start by sharing a little bit about who were some of those experts, so that we get a sense of the diversity of who you were going to, who you were learning from, the kinds of sources that you were looking at.
I guess I can go to talk about the neurodivergence and belonging course. I think we had fewer live experts, but we had a lot of people, at least for some of the course was personal experience. So we had like at least half of our team were neurodivergent people. So for those experiences, for like personal experiences and perspectives, we had neurodivergent people come in. As far as how I went about researching the course, when I do my standard academic research, I will use like academic search sites, Google Scholar, and then I will check the author's background to see what their expertise is in. I can't really speak to the diversity of the materials necessarily.
That's a good starting place though, G. Anybody else want to jump in?
So obviously the course that I worked on was very much Western because it was made for, California, the US. But what I do want to say is that since we were diving into themes of climate change, we did actually do a lot of research on other countries' take on climate change. Specifically, I remember there being a lot of focus on places in Africa where, the land was sinking or they were having similar problems to what is happening in California. And we also had a lot of interns and youth that were from other countries, such as Asian countries or African countries. And I feel like that also added a level of like diversity in the work, in the curriculum and the work that we did. Something that I do want to add that I think is important is that Since my course was so specific, then a lot of the experts that we worked on were climate scientists or authorities in California that had research, years of research, and that had been investigating the Central Valley in depth. And I think that that was something that really helped us because obviously we were giving this information that we probably didn't know before, but we adapted this information to be something that was much more digestible for these students. And I think that's mostly what we do. Like we give our own interpretation of this information. And yeah, we do obviously use materials that are scholar materials, you know, like we don't just use random Google pages. We do actually go into depth because we are all very passionate about this research and we do want to have the best curriculum possible that is as accurate as possible and can give as many perspectives as possible.
I have to say, I love what I'm hearing is such a balance. Sorry, and I'll come back to whoever was just about to speak, but that balance between the scholarly, for lack of a better term, and the personal stories, the primary sources. I think that's a really powerful thing that we don't see as often as we really should, to be honest with you, in education, to weave in those primary sources and give them importance as well. I think I cut somebody off though who wanted to jump in. Yeah, Katie.
I was
Oh, it was
Go ahead,
Azaria. Yeah.
Azaria. No, you take it
sorry.
away. Yeah.
I was just going to piggyback off of what Natalia said. I wanted to also touch on the diversity aspect of our research. So personally, I've worked on 2 different curriculums with people from different countries. And when we're in our research processes, I've had people who are from countries like Morocco or other Middle Eastern or Northern African countries, and also South Africa and Italy. So we all kind of had access to different resources and different scholars that we could reference. I know some people that were in my team have even asked some of their professors in school for like advice or like to read over what we've looked at. So it's definitely the beautiful thing of working with an international team where we have like the diverse experiences and like a wide variety of people who we can talk to and a wide variety of resources from around the world.
Love it. Thank you for that, Azaria. Katie, do you want to add something else?
I think in the interest of time and more questions, I'll keep it really short. I love this question so much. One thing we really talk a lot about as the group is compiling research sources is about having, yeah, diversity of sources, but also considering who is this from? Like, what is the perspective? Not the idea that there is a definitive single truth about a topic or one way to tell a story about it, but how are we accountable to whose perspective the story is from? And we have a chance in such a diverse design team to be like, well, is this true? What this person wrote, is this true for you in your country, in your context? If not, how is it different? And that opens up conversation in that way. We also think a lot about the authority of people most impacted by an issue or a problem. So if we are going to be doing expert review on neurodiversity, how can we seek out neurodivergent academics on neurodivergence for their perspectives on the topics that are being presented. Yeah, there's so much more to say. It's such a rich question, but I know there's a lot more conversation to be had.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that emphasis, Katie, on the expert doesn't just mean you have degrees and you've got the scholarly background. It can mean also that you've experienced the challenges that the course is trying to address, right? Because they're an expert in that experience from so many different perspectives. I love that. We have so many, I mean, there's so much to talk about here. I think I want to make sure that I elevate Josh for a second, because I think you all mentioned this idea of trusting learners, which from my experience and in my own writing, I find seems to be one of the hardest things to get to happen is to really just trust them as opposed to controlling learners. So I'm really curious about your question on that topic, Josh.
Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, that slide went by way too fast, so I took a really quick screenshot so I could go back to it for a second and look at that post-it note. I feel like in these in these conversations and in this one in particular, we would be remiss if we don't talk about feelings. And what I would love to ask, and any of the learners who would like to respond, is you made me think about times in my life, and I'm on my fifth career, when I felt like I was being trusted to do the work. And I wonder if you could just share a little bit about how you feel as you go through this process and you know that you should be trusted. Maybe you don't feel trusted by the adults, or you're starting to feel trusted, and what that feels like. So I wonder if anybody wants to address that.
So for me personally, obviously there was pressure and there was a lot of it, but it's not the bad kind of pressure. I mean, I feel like as youth, we're never truly given the opportunity to contribute back to other youths, you know? I mean, we're all taught to sit in a classroom and view a curriculum or a topic, but we're never really immersed into being able to interact with it from the other standpoint, you know, from being the ones that create it. So for me, it was sort of it was sort of a pressure that I enjoyed, right? Because it made me feel like I was actually able to contribute to something that a lot of
Mm,
students will probably keep in their minds for years and will be
mm,
able to um, develop the youth, you know? And I feel like that is what is so beautiful about creating these courses. It's the beauty of being able to share your what you know and to learn while you do it. And that is truly what I felt like again, I was we were giving a lot of like trust, like the people around us, they're constantly, you know, giving us feedback that is actually helpful and that can actually help us in the future. And at the same time, with this feedback and from what the resources that are giving to us, it just kind of gives us an environment we are where we can thrive and we can flourish and we can develop not just as learners, but also as the pioneers of
mm,
development.
Wow.
I love that. Aiden, I saw you opened your mic as well. Jump in.
Yeah, I just wanted to briefly summarize for at least our course of the neurodivergency course, where like the step-by-step process through our backwards mapping really emphasized more of the slow and steady approach that we made towards our course of not just like for one specific group in general, like just comprehending all these different terms, but more of using those terms and acquiring those terms to the video writing and social media groups to really emphasize more of inspiration towards the younger youth and to give them more of reasons why these fields of study need to be looked upon and like how they can resonate with other people, not just from the United States, but on a global scale, you know?
Mm,
So,
mhm. And
Yeah,
that feels good.
yeah.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, I think it feels really good to be trusted, especially I was also in the neurodivergence course, especially as someone who has that lived experience. Maybe
Mm,
I don't have necessarily like a degree in those studies, but having that lived experience and being able to express what I know and what I feel and what I've gone through these courses to the world and to get my voice out there and to be a part of this process to build something for other people to understand the people around them, that just feels really good.
wow.
yeah, and to piggyback onto that, I think this question's really interesting because if I'm going to be honest, I never really considered the pressures of the, I guess, the point of being trusted. I think I immediately turned that pressure into excitement or confidence. It was
Mm,
the first time I was given the opportunity to talk about a topic or work with like-minded youth who would also offer different perspectives on I worked on the neurodivergence accepting and belonging course. It was the first time I was really felt comfortable sharing my experiences with being neurodivergent or mental health. As someone who is a firm youth mental health advocate, I have my own podcast about it. As someone who has lived experience with that, having this platform has been honestly, to not exaggerate, really a really life-changing experience to meet these people that understand me and to also work in a space that I feel most comfortable in. So I really, really enjoyed my experience working on that course, and I felt I was trusted by those around me, the peers around me, the facilitators around me. It was a really collaborative and accepting environment.
Wow, thank you, Lily. Wow.
This is so great. All right, so we're almost out of time. I'm going to ask one last question of our learners that might take us a tiny bit over. I'm going to pose it and then ask Mel to share about upcoming events so I can give you all like 30 seconds to think about your answers. One piece of advice that, I mean, you all have now experienced teaching and learning from the perspective of someone designing curriculum and thinking about what will engage and effectively impact learners of all kinds. What is that one piece of advice that each of you would give to teachers, to educators, based on this experience that you've had? And while you think about that, Mel, what do we have coming up?
Thanks, Jen. So please save the date to hear from Raheen Fatima on Tuesday, May 27th, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. She's a 17-year-old innovator from Pakistan. She has her own education podcast, and she's also an advocate for Socratic Seminar. And so that's what she wants to share with us on that particular day. And then I'm also going to drop a couple of links in the chat for you folks right here. So in the meantime, while we're waiting for that next event to come up, we also have a few other examples of youth voice, 2 audio clips featuring M&A Naz Khan of Nobel Navigators, and she was on Josh's podcast. And we also have an article by Jadi Estrada, which was published in our Chronicle, which Jennifer also does the editing for. So all of those links are in the chat for you folks to check those out. Thank you.
And if any of our learners, thank you, Mel. And if any of our learners tonight are interested in doing some writing, just be in touch. I would love to hear from you. I'll drop my email in the chat here in a moment. Oh, and actually Katie already has it because I'm on all those threads. So, so who wants to start? What would be your core piece of advice that you would like to share with teachers based on the experience you just had? Who would like to go first? I hope that wasn't too hard a question.
I guess I can go. We emphasize accessibility a lot, and just I know it's difficult sometimes within the context of curricula to be flexible, but I think just emphasizing being as flexible as possible when working with students, because we know what works best for us a lot of the time. And sometimes education doesn't really have a give and take for that, but like just flexibility as much as possible and trusting that for the most part, we have a sense of what will help us most.
Awesome. Thank you for that, G. Who wants to go next?
I would say,
Please.
I would say another thing we like to emphasize a lot is really focusing on the experiences of the learners, and having them feel like they are in control of their learning from experience. And even as someone who has worked on these courses, tend to be a lot more engaged when you feel like you can relate to the topic or you can apply it to your own life. Like before each one of us have started on our own course, we all were tasked with completing the same course that's already been created called Overcoming Bias. So we can kind of get a feel of what the learners are going to be doing when they're going through our course, and just putting ourselves in their shoes and making it very interactive. I feel like that's like the best way for people to learn and really learn how to apply what we're trying to sell to them in real life.
Love it. Thank you, Azaria. Lily. Sorry, Lily, and then Natalia.
For me, I think the best piece of advice or feedback I can give to the teachers on this call is to just really listen to the student perspective. I know sometimes it's difficult. There's a little bit of this power struggle sometimes, I feel like, between the teachers being the seemingly like authority figure and the students being like the person who must oblige to everything and listen to everything. I'm not saying students are going to rebel. I'm more so saying I think seeing that relationship is more of a dialogue rather than a I tell you what to do type situation will be very helpful, because I think one thing that goes along with student protagonism, students being at the forefront of learning, is them asking questions, bringing their concerns up. And, again, going on along with that flexibility aspect, really working to see, all right, how do I tailor this to the students' needs? Because at the end of the day, we all have the same goal, for the students to flourish. So I feel like that would be a super important thing to walk away with.
Thank you, Lily. And can I just say really quickly that I love hearing the term protagonism being used so consistently in this conversation. As one of the co-authors who created a book hoping that that would be a term that would catch, really makes me very happy to hear you using it so much. Natalia, and then Aiden.
Yeah, so the piece of advice that I would give is to just be open-minded and be innovative and be different. I feel like sometimes curriculums are just so cookie cutter that students just get used to it. Like, they're not really expecting a difference. They're just expecting to read books and write essays about it. And while I think that's okay, I do think that there should clearly be a balance. There should be curriculums that actually challenge students, that actually give them something to think about, that actually give them a different perspective on how they already look at the world. And this is what we do. This is how we design our curriculums. But I feel like, other than those who teach these curriculums in classes, I think every single teacher all over the world, every single educator should be thinking differently, and just think of different ways, innovative ways that they can actually challenge students, and that they can actually make them the next leaders or the next influential people. And that's my piece of advice.
Love it. Thank you, Natalia. Aiden, you get the last word.
Just want to say, for as advice for teachers on this call, is to be open-minded, as well as just to listen from the main protagonist's point of view, and to hear from their perspective and listen from their perspective of, like, uh certain issues where, like, across the world, it can be like critically open-minded towards those different perspectives, and like listening to towards those perspectives, you know and like some of these teachers may like address these certain questions that student has for these teachers. So like with those questions, it can be really critical for their future. It could be really critical for like how they would succeed, the steps towards succeeding, and just how, like, through just through what we do in Global Nomads and in CCL, like what we all do is, our goal is to inspire youth to get those critical questions underway and give their whole point of view, give their perspective on the issue, and give hope towards fulfilling those problems.
Yeah, you all have really created a lot of hope and inspiration in this event today. So we're going to wrap up. Don't anybody jump off though yet, though. So first of all, let's all open your mics so that our learners can hopefully hear our applause, if you would. Let's give our learners a round of applause for their participation tonight. That was wonderful. We adored it. And now, Josh, we need to do our requisite final fist bump photograph before we head out with all this hope and positive energy that you all gave us. So, Josh.
Yep. This is your chance to turn on your video so you can be part of the group photo. And everybody is going to do a fist bump. And make sure you've got your fist in view. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Wow.
Thank you all
Wow.
so much for being a part of this event today. This was extraordinary. This is one of those videos we are absolutely going to elevate out there in the world so that educators and learners, frankly, learn not only about the great stuff happening at the Global Nomads Group and the wonderful work that you all are doing, but to hear from these learners. Everything that you all said was truly inspiring, and it helps those of us who slog our way through the day, especially in the month of May, trying to make education happen. It helps to light a little candle for us. So thank you all so much for being a part of it. And thank you, Katie. Thank you to all of our learners. Have a wonderful evening, and we hope to see you at the next one.
Thank you. What
Take care,
schools
everybody.
see.
Thank you.
Thank you.